So yes, that was my previous job. So for 2 years, I've been the director of the Office of Quality and Surveillance. And so I'm excited to talk with you today about some of our programs and what we do. So our learning objectives today are obviously to learn about our surveillance program. You've heard a lot today about application assessment and how we're going to do it in the future, how we do it now, how it's going to be done with ICH 12, et cetera. But a lot of what we do is actually post-marketing surveillance. So once your application is approved, you know, who's keeping their eye on what's going on? Turns out it's us, the Office of Quality Surveillance. In addition to application products, we also obviously look at the OTC products, monograph OTCs, homeopathics, things like that. So our portfolio is a lot larger than some of the other OPQ offices that are just doing application assessment. The other thing you're going to learn is the various data sources that we use to do post-marketing surveillance. Surveillance is not all about inspection. Some people think, oh, you're keeping your eyes on us by coming out and visiting us. There's a lot of other data that we have, and I'll let you know what we do use and how we use it. So we are in the Office of Pharmaceutical Quality. We're not part of compliance. We're not part of the Office of Regulatory Affairs. So we can see that we're part of the Office of Pharmaceutical Quality, along with the speakers you heard earlier this afternoon. We work closely with our partners in the Office of Pharmaceutical Quality to make sure that we all are using the same standards, et cetera, to ensure quality medicines on the marketplace. So what's the vision for our Office of Quality Surveillance? So our vision is that we continuously monitor and provide the state of quality of regulated sites and products. And our mission is to ensure quality medicines are available through signal detection, data analysis, review of the state of quality, and proactive stakeholder engagement. So we want to engage with you, industry, in addition to making sure we're following any signals and evaluating what's going on in the marketplace. So how do we do this? We do this in a lot of different ways. We have a lot of responsive actions. You know, if something's going on, if we see something in a field alert report or a MedWatch report that we need to respond to immediately, we do that. We also kind of try to look at the big picture. Where do we stand? Where does the pharmaceutical industry stand? Where do we see the issues? Where do we see the problem? Places that maybe we need to have better outreach. Places we maybe need to concentrate our efforts. And then we also have, in addition to that, some proactive actions as well. What signals are we seeing? Maybe there isn't a real issue yet. Maybe there are no MedWatch reports yet. Maybe no one's complained about anything yet, but we're kind of seeing a little bit of signals going on. If we kind of combine those signals together, do some analysis, maybe there's something we can do to prevent something from happening. So what is it that we're constantly looking at? We have a fairly big portfolio of what we're looking at and what we're trying to keep track of. So there are about 6,000 facilities worldwide that we are constantly taking a look at. Of those, about 2,000 of them are medical gas, and 4,000 of them are the non-medical gas. And of those, it's about a 50-50 split between domestic and foreign manufacturers for the non-medical gas manufacturers. So that translates to a lot of products. We have 120,000 unique NDC numbers for finished dose, and we have about 35,000 unique NDC numbers for active pharmaceutical ingredient, and about 800 unique medical gas products that we're constantly keeping our eyes on. So how do we do that, and what is it we're constantly looking at? Of course, the number one thing that people always think about is inspection data. So we do use facility and inspection data heavily in our analyses, and that includes the registration and listing, eDuraList system that I know a lot of you use once a year at least to update your registration and listings, or if you're coming into the market, the information that you put in there. The inspection findings, not only surveillance, GMP inspections, but also pre-approval inspections or the post-approval inspections, or God forbid the for-cause inspections. I know no one likes those. We also are looking at the types of information you tell us, your profile class codes, what type of products are you making, imports, what are you importing, are you an API manufacturer, are you just a laboratory, repacker, et cetera. We're looking at that. We also have a lot of adverse event or quality defect reports that we're looking at. The field alert reports, which I already alluded to, where you have to let us know if you think you have an issue with a product. We do look at the quality-related MedWatch reports that comes to our office as well, and as well as the deviation reports from biological products. Recalls themselves are managed by the Office of Compliance, but we keep our eyes on what's being recalled to make sure there's not a trend that we're seeing or some other product we should be looking at that these recalls might be giving us some information about. And then individual divisions around the country that managed by the Office of Regulatory Affairs often get consumer complaints. So a consumer may, instead of submitting something to MedWatch, they may call up their local FDA office and submit a complaint. And so we also take a look at those. We do sampling and testing of products as well. We have a program that's looking at a risk-based approach of how we should sample and test drugs. And so we take those results into account as well. The application data is also important to us. We take a look at original and supplements, looking for trends, looking for what's the industry doing. And the annual reports are also very useful, looking for places where somebody might be trying to make a change that is not really annual reportable, things like that. I'll try to keep our eyes on that. Future, we hope to have quality metrics. So I'm not going to talk too much about that today because Tara's going to come up later this afternoon and give you all the details about quality metrics and let you know the opportunity that's still open to participate in our feedback program. So in addition to all the information that you can imagine that the agency has, we also try to look at external data that's available outside of the agency. And this includes partnerships we have with other foreign regulatory agencies to either share their inspection information, their outcome, or if they have an alert on a site, they may often let us know that depending on our agreement, and then we can follow up on that as well. And then there's public information about companies, consumer reviews of products. There might be, we've taken a look at things like business practices of companies that are merging or breaking apart or constantly getting new CEOs, and we try to look for trends. The things that are happening in the business world affect the way that companies are willing to either invest in themselves and follow subsequent regulations that are put out by the agency. So we have all this data, so what are we going to do with it? So that's the big question. Obviously, there's a lot to do. I'm going to give you some examples of some of the things we do. So some of the activities that we do, things that I've already talked about is trying to characterize what's going on with all the sites. What do we do with that information? If there's an emergency, a hurricane, a fire, an explosion somewhere around the world, our office prioritizes the sites and products that are in that area of the emergency, and then we can let the agency and the Office of Regulatory Affairs know the order in which they need to address getting these sites either up or going or determining whether these sites need additional help during an emergency. We do monitor and quantitate the state of quality. I'll give an example of that a little bit later on. But we do engage with our counterparts within the Office of Pharmaceutical Quality to make sure that we are not only understanding what's happening post-market, but also understanding the quality of what we're getting pre-market so that we can get a better feel for how the pharmaceutical industry is relating to, is putting out quality product, whether it's quality application or whether it's a quality product out the door in a facility. And also, as I mentioned, looking at signals and trends, trying to figure out where is it do we need to put our resources. And with that, some of the actual things that we do, as I mentioned, we prioritize sites for GMP inspections. So we're the ones, our office tells the Office of Regulatory Affairs where to go in 2020, for instance. As I mentioned, we have about 4,000 sites that are non-medical gas, and ORA can inspect probably around 1,000 a year. And so which 1,000 are they going to go to this year? And we're the ones that prioritize everything and let them know where they need to go next. Our sampling and testing program is what we're going to sample and test is informed by all the data that we feed into our various models to determine what products should we be testing. We have a site dossier program. This is a program where before an inspection, we'll provide a dossier to the investigator so that they can have all the information we know about a site. And that way, that can help them either target their inspection or determine what additional information we may need that we may be lacking about that facility. We have two fairly new programs that I'll talk a little bit more about in a minute, and that's the new inspection protocol project and the site engagement program. Once a year, or twice a year now, actually, we changed it to biannually so we could be more reactive to what's going on in the industry. We create a surveillance action plan that kind of takes a look at all the resources we have for the next 6 months and determine how we want to use them, where we want to go on inspection, what do we want to do, what do we want to test, which sites do we want to consider for site engagement. All of that goes into our kind of bigger surveillance action plan that we share with the Office of Regulatory Affairs and Office of Compliance to let them know what it is that we're going to be looking at within the next 6 months. And then obviously, you've heard a lot about ICH Q12 and established conditions, but to do established conditions per ICH Q12, one of the requirements is you really need to follow ICH Q10 and have an effective pharmaceutical quality system. And so we, Office of Quality Surveillance, also help determine the effectiveness of your PQS so that you can get hopefully more flexibility with established conditions. So as an example of some of the predictive analytics we try to do, because it's not only about, we don't only want to be reactive to what's going on, we also want to be able to predict what might happen or what might happen at a site. Is we've done a lot of not only academia collaboration with St. Gallen's, we'll probably hear a little bit about that from Tara a little later. We have a grant with NIPP to use analytics to take a look at what's out there in social media, and can that predict any product? Can we predict something like a recall based on consumers complaining about a product online, things like that? If you think about, we've had some broad agency agreements that are also will be posted this year for different small businesses or large businesses or academic institutions that have ideas on how to better do surveillance. So examples of some of the models that we've created within our office include, can we predict inspection outcome based on all the information we have? Can we predict how many field alert reports that you're going to have next year based on what we know about you, what we know about your site? I thought we can predict pretty well. And that really helps us because we can then look at if you don't, this is especially useful for sites that never submit a field alert report, and our models say they should have one or two. That gives us an opportunity when we go on inspection is to have the investigator ask about that. Like, we kind of predict that you should have, 20 of these a year, and you've submitted none for the last 3 years. Can you tell us a little bit about that? So those are the kind of things that our models help us with. And then as well, we want to be able to predict the effectiveness of your PQS as well. This is an example of something that we just published. We've done for a couple years, but we just published it in 2018. And that is the report on the state of pharmaceutical quality. So I've got the link here for you so you can go read it if you haven't read it. It's not that long. I think it's only about 10 pages or so, but it has a lot of figures and pictures too, so that's not all text. This is where we kind of take a big picture look at the pharmaceutical industry and what do we see. And I've just pulled out some key findings for you. And so one of them is that application products generally have better inspection outcomes than over-the-counter products. So that's one. So perhaps we need more outreach for over-the-counter manufacturers. Another one is that if you haven't had a surveillance inspection for a long time, or if it's your first surveillance inspection, then you're more likely to be out of compliance. So there's certainly indication that as soon as a new site registers with us, we need to get out there. If we've never been there, the odds are there's something that we probably need to go out and find. Our assessment of product quality shows that a lot of recalls are because of repackers and relabelers. We're also seeing an increase in the number of repackers and relabelers registering with us. So that seems to be an activity that a lot of companies are starting to use more of, and it's a concern because that's also a place where we're seeing a lot of potential errors happening, whether we're probably labeling errors, et cetera. And so it's an area of focus for us. And then submission quality is another thing that we reported on. We found out that applicants that have the most numbers of submissions also have the highest rate of not approval of CR. So it's almost like quantity over quality. So if you're somebody who submits a lot of applications to us, think about quality before quantity next time. trend we're definitely seeing. Here's another thing that we're doing with all of the data we have and the analytics as well that we have. We've created a quality surveillance dashboard. So this is a dashboard that those in the Office of used to be OPF, and now it's OPMA, Office of Pharmaceutical Manufacturing Assessment. I think I got that right. You hope to be able to use in the future to assess different facilities. So this is a dashboard that has many buttons that you can go in and you can look at all the adverse events that have happened with a particular site. You can go into the scorecard button and take a look at some of the models, such as our field alert report model, our inspection outcome model. You can go in and look at the products that a site makes, see whether any of them have been recalled. You can go in and see what all the inspection outcomes have been. You can go in and see the shipments. Has this site been doing any shipments? How many shipments have they been doing? This is kind of all the information rolled into one for an assessor to use when they're assessing a facility for an application. In addition, we hope this dashboard also will end up replacing the dossiers for the field investigators. They can go in and use this dashboard as well. Take a look at everything that's happening with a given site. So I just want to give you a little more detail on a couple of the newer programs that we have. One is the new inspection protocol project, and this is a joint project with the Office of Regulatory Affairs. And this is to modernize our inspections, to collect data in a more structured way. I think you heard about the advantages of structured data a little earlier from Jeff. And so we also wanted to have better data from inspections, because once again, inspection outcomes end up being PDF, just like our assessments do, and those can be harder to scrape information out of when you're looking for trends, et cetera. And so the NIPP program actually is standardized protocols for investigators to follow, and it hopefully allow us to better pull together all the data from inspections to do analyses, to figure out what the trends are coming out of inspections, both for surveillance and pre-approval. Both of those are part of the NIPP program. And also, the other great thing about the NIPP program, it's really given us the opportunity to put in some of the attributes that we found through our research to be important to the performance of a particular site, and that is some of the quality culture elements, or we call them, some people call maturity indicators of a site, and Tara will talk more about those. The other program that has been new in the last year or so is our site engagement program. This is a program where we are engaging sites, surveillance, not compliance, so I'll tell you the difference between the two of us in a second. But we, surveillance, are engaging a site, seeing what questions they may have, what issues they still feel they need to be resolved from their last inspection, and trying to work as partners more to potentially increase the compliance of the site, or increase the possibility that the site may have issues with manufacturing in the future. Currently, this program is really targeted to sites making products that are at risk of shortage, because that's a very important issue for us. And so it's been pretty successful so far. We've had a lot of sites really excited about engaging with us, and we've been talking with them about a lot of different things, culture, metrics, potentially, what it is that they're trying to accomplish, and how to do better CAPA, things like that. So it's a lot of different topics, and each site we engage with has a different idea about what topic they want to discuss with us. So that's kind of interesting as well. We really have an opportunity to see that every site actually kind of has their own issues potentially that they may want a little interaction with the FDA about. This is a completely voluntary program, so if you get a letter from us saying, hey, would you like to be involved in the site engagement program, you can feel free to say no. Several sites have said no, and that's fine. Some have been too busy to do it, or undergoing other transitions, or et cetera. We have a long list of people who want to be involved, in addition to a list of sites that we want to engage with. So you don't have to say yes, but I think the people that have said yes have been very enthusiastic about it. So I just wanted to end with this slide, because this is one of the questions we get. What's the difference between surveillance and compliance? This kind of sums it up. You don't want to be in the red zone is the bottom line, and that's if you're in the red zone, you move over from surveillance to enforcement. Enforcement means Francis and compliance, so he'll come up and tell you a little bit about that. And once you're in the red zone, it takes a long time to get out of the red zone because often it needs another inspection, et cetera. And so you're better off staying green if you can. So you're better off complying with the GMPs and hopefully even going above that, complying with ICH Q10, using things like metrics and statistics to really figure out where your processes are, ensuring data integrity and all of those things. Because you want to stay down in the green zone. So I think we have to ask the questions, don't we? So just quick takeaways, because I think I'm out of time. Is us, the Office of Quality Surveillance, we're always thinking of trying to new ways to try to do surveillance, figure out what's going on in the industry. We do research as well with academia and others to try to figure out new and exciting things to do. Metrics and culture programs are really good business practice, and Tara will talk about that in a second. And then we, as I said, we're constantly monitoring the state of quality. Please look for our reports on our website so we can ensure that every dose is safe and effective and free of contamination for patients. All right, here's your question. If invited, facilities are required to participate in the site engagement program. You guys are all awake. I'm impressed. You're right, it's false. It's a voluntary program. We'd love it if you would say yes, but you're not required to. All right. Okay, this is, of course, you got a clue earlier today about what happens when there's all of the above is one of the answers, but it's okay. Okay, FDA uses which of the following sources of information for quality surveillance? Facility data, MedWatch reports, sampling and testing results, just facility and sampling and testing results, or all of the above? Okay, excellent. You guys are fast learners. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Francis.